It started subtly, as most strange things do. Every night, at precisely 3:03 a.m., my phone alarm would go off. It wasn't an alarm I had set. I'd checked every setting, every app, even factory reset my phone twice. But every night, like clockwork, it would blare to life. The first time, the label simply said, "Wake up," annoying but harmless. I silenced it and went back to sleep, dismissing it as a weird glitch. The next night, 3:03 a.m., the alarm went off again. This time, the label was different. It said, "Check the window." My heart did a little flutter kick. It was probably just a coincidence, a random string of words generated by whatever bug was haunting my phone. But curiosity got the better of me. I crept out of bed and peeked through my blinds. Nothing. Just the empty, silent street under the orange glow of the streetlights. I felt a bit foolish, but also a little spooked. The third night, I was ready for it. I stayed awake, my eyes glued to my phone screen. At 3:02 a.m., my heart was pounding. As the clock ticked over to 3:03, the alarm screamed. The label this time read, "Don't look outside." A cold chill washed over me. This was no longer a glitch. Someone, or something, was sending me messages. The first night, a simple command. The second, an instruction. The third, a warning, a direct contradiction to the night before. I spent the rest of that night huddled under my covers, imagining all sorts of horrors lurking just beyond my window pane. Sleep was out of the question. By the fourth night, I was a nervous wreck. What would it say this time? I decided to take a different approach. I put my phone in a soundproof box in the living room. If I couldn't hear it, it couldn't scare me. It was a flawed plan, I know, but I was desperate. I tried to sleep, but my ears were straining, listening for a phantom sound that couldn't reach me. Around 4 a.m., I gave up. I crept into the living room and opened the box. The screen was lit up, showing the missed alarm from 3:03 a.m. The label read, "It can see you anyway." I nearly dropped the phone. My apartment, which had always felt like my safe haven, suddenly felt like a glass cage. I checked the locks on my doors and windows for the 10th time. I pulled all the curtains shut, blocking out any view of the outside world and any view in. But the message echoed in my mind. It can see you anyway. How? I have no webcams besides the one on my phone, which was in the box. My laptop was shut and unplugged. Was someone watching through a crack in the curtains? A telescope from a building across the street? The paranoia was suffocating. The alarms kept coming, night after night, each one more specific and more terrifying than the last. The floorboards creak for a reason. Listen to the pipes. It's not the wind. Each message sent me on a frantic search of my own home, turning me into a detective in a horror movie of my own making. I was inspecting my floorboards, pressing my ear against the walls to listen to the plumbing, jumping at every gust of wind. I was becoming unhinged. I wasn't sleeping. I was barely eating. During the day, I was a zombie, and at night, I was a prisoner waiting for my daily dose of psychological torment. My friends and family started to notice. I looked terrible. I was jumpy, irritable, and my eyes were wide with a fear that never left. They tried to help. They suggested I see a doctor, a therapist. They thought I was having a breakdown, that the stress of my job was getting to me. I tried to explain about the alarms, but how could I? It sounded insane. My phone is sending me scary messages at 3:03 a.m. every night. They'd think I was crazy. One friend, Mark, offered to stay over. He was a no-nonsense, logical guy. He'd help me get to the bottom of it. I was so relieved I almost cried. Maybe a second pair of eyes would see what I was missing. That night, Mark and I sat in the living room, waiting. He had my phone in his hand, scrolling through the settings, convinced he could find the source. At 3:02, we both fell silent. The air was thick with anticipation. Then it happened. The alarm went off, loud and piercing. Mark looked at the screen, and his face went pale. I leaned over. The label read, "He can't help you." Mark was spooked, to say the least. He tried to rationalize it. He said it had to be a hacker, a cruel prank. He spent hours running diagnostics, installing security software. But he found nothing. No malware, no spyware, no trace of any outside interference. He left the next morning, promising to do some more research, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He didn't want to come back, and I didn't blame him. I was truly alone in this. The messages became more personal. Remember the locket you lost in 3rd grade? Your father's favorite song. The scar on your left knee. These weren't random facts. These were deep cuts, things only I would know. Some were memories I had long forgotten. How was this possible? Was I being watched by someone from my past, or was it something else entirely? Something that had access not just to my present, but to my entire life? I felt like a specimen under a microscope, my entire existence being dissected and fed back to me in cryptic, terrifying snippets. The idea that this entity knew me so intimately was, in many ways, scarier than any threat of physical harm. It was a violation of my very self. I couldn't live like this anymore. I was on the verge of a complete breakdown. I decided I had to confront it. I had to do something, anything other than wait in fear every night. So, the next night I set an alarm of my own. For 3:02 a.m., I typed out my own message in the label, "Who are you?" It felt silly, like shouting into the void, but it was the only thing I could think of. I sat there, my own alarm set, waiting. 3:02 a.m. arrived, and my preemptive alarm chirped. I silenced it and waited, my heart hammering against my ribs. 3:03 a.m. My phone lit up with its nightly terror. I held my breath and read the label. It was a reply. It said, "You'll see." The 2 words were more chilling than any of the previous messages. It wasn't just a statement, it was a promise. A promise that this passive psychological game was about to change. The rest of the night was pure agony. What did "you'll see" mean? Would something happen tonight? Tomorrow? I sat on my couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the front door, expecting it to burst open at any moment. But nothing happened. The sun came up, and the city stirred to life outside. The immediate threat seemed to have passed, but the sense of impending doom was heavier than ever before. For the next few nights, the alarms were silent. The 3:03 a.m. slot came and went with no message, no sound. It was almost worse than the alarms themselves. The silence was deafening, filled with anticipation and dread. I was still waking up at 3:03 a.m. out of sheer habit, my body conditioned to fear. I'd stare at my dark phone screen, waiting, but nothing. Had I scared it off? Did my question somehow break the cycle? Or was this just the quiet before the storm? I started to feel a sliver of hope. Maybe it was over. Maybe the prankster got bored or my phone had finally fixed itself. I actually slept through the night for the first time in weeks. I started to feel human again. I even laughed at a joke a coworker told. Life was returning to normal, or so I thought. About a week after the last message, I was walking home from work. It was late. The sky was dark. As I approached my apartment building, I noticed my lights were on. I always turn my lights off when I leave. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I slowly walked up to my front door and noticed it was slightly ajar. My blood ran cold. I pushed the door open, my hand shaking. And there, in the middle of my living room, was a small, ornate wooden box. It was old, intricately carved, and it sat right on my coffee table, a place where it most definitely had not been before. I didn't own anything like it. All the fear of the past few weeks came rushing back, tenfold. My apartment had been breached. Someone had been inside. My eyes darted around the room, searching for any other signs of an intruder, but everything else was exactly as I had left it. Just the box. Who left it here? And how did they get in? I cautiously approached it. There was no lock, just a simple lid. My mind screamed at me not to open it, to call the police, to run. But I knew with a dreadful certainty that this was it. This was the answer to my question. This was what "you'll see" meant. With a trembling hand, I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a single old-fashioned wind-up alarm clock. Its hands were frozen. They pointed to 3:03. And sitting right next to it was my phone. The screen was on, displaying the alarm page. There was a new alarm set for that night. 3:03 a.m. The label simply read, "I'm home." Thanks for watching. And if you have a story that defies explanation, share it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysteries. Stay safe out there.